It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and great to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show. Lots to talk about over the next 60 minutes, as there is every day. Tino Pattigno will drop by later on, because if it's a Friday, it's a NASCAR Friday, and we're talking about the Food City 500 in Bristol. Night racing this weekend for NASCAR. So we'll get into that. Robert Littal drops by his weekly visit to talk about the top stories of the week. Pat Pickens, author and documentary filmmaker on The Whalers, which premieres this weekend, 28 years after the team left Hartford for North Carolina. We'll talk to him about that documentary. And is there ever a chance the Whalers could return to Hartford? We will ask that question that we always ask. But we start things out in the NFL, and I wanted to bring this up. There were a couple times this week I thought about bringing this topic up, and I wanted to bring in our friend Sam Yarnell, who's hanging out with us for a couple of segments on the show today, to get his thoughts on it. Tis the season for talk, Sam, whether it's the draft and who might go where and who's getting here and all this postulating that's going on, or it's players and coaches and trying to win the offseason headlines. The Jets have been notorious with this for years. Winning the offseason. They're a little quieter this time around, at least the management and coaches are. Although Justin Fields has been talking a little bit this week, and we actually mentioned that. I want to talk about Deshaun Watson, which got me started on this whole thing. Deshaun Watson putting out a video on social media talking about it's about proving the naysayers wrong. Now, I'm going to say one thing in his defense. One thing. As a player, from a can he be redeemed as a player standpoint. And here it is. And when I say this, I want to see your genuine reaction, Sam. Deshaun Watson is still only 29 years old. I mean, that's crazy to think about. That Deshaun Watson is still only 29 years old. And it feels like it's been a lifetime of him, around the league. And it feels like he should be so much older with everything we've been talking about through all these years. It feels like a lifetime ago he played in Houston. But Deshaun Watson still is only 29 years old.
Yeah, I mean, when you put together, it makes sense based on, when he was good, right? As simply put as that. On the subject of this, social media video he put out, it speaks very loudly that yesterday he put out this video or the day before or whatever. Yeah. And this morning the Browns signed Joe Flacco. I mean, no, Deshaun Watson, you're not coming back. You're not ever going to be good. Just quiet down and accept that you are really one of the biggest mistakes in recent NFL history. Like, you're only making it worse by doing all this stuff, man. Just stop.
Okay, but hold on. Can he really make it worse? There's no worse.
100%.
No, the bar is below the ground, as our friend Matt Verderam said on social media yesterday. The bar is below ground. He can't make it worse. He's got to do something to pump himself up. I have to be honest, of all the Deshaun Watson things we've ever talked about on this show, and God knows there's been plenty in the first 16 months we've been doing this TV show, this is the one I probably have the least problem with, because you know what? The guy's got to do what the guy has to do to try and up his value.
Yeah, I get it, but, well...
What else is he supposed to do?
I don't. Because, again, players in the sort of situation and circumstance in which Deshaun Watson has found himself should understand that the end has found them, whether it be too early or not. And you gotta quiet down and just fade back into the shadows.
Absolutely not.
Again, only gonna make his public image worse.
It can't be worse. It's below ground. Again, it's below ground. The bar is so low, it can't get worse. So I disagree fundamentally with the point that it's only going to get worse. And telling somebody at 29 who still physically might be able to play, and again, we don't know. Obviously, the Browns feel like they know. But let's also be honest, the Browns' decision-making and evaluation of talent, not necessarily the greatest. I'm not saying I'm rooting for Deshaun Watson, because that would be impossible. But I do think it is. I do think it is interesting to see him try to put on this front, this face of I can come back. Let me move away from that for a second. I saw Christian McCaffrey on one of these a couple of weeks ago.
McCaffrey straight ahead this time with a seam. Skis his way inside the 10. First and goal, San Francisco.
What do you make of Christian McCaffrey at this stage of his career? The talk and versus the reality of what he is for a Niners team that desperately needs him.
Well, it's completely different than the Deshaun Watson thing. I mean, good for Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, the thing is, Christian McCaffrey's got, a demonstrated history of being successful in the league. Quite frankly, Deshaun Watson doesn't. In terms of the practicality of Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers, no. It's not going to work out, especially because he's another year older after missing basically the entire season last year. And oh, by the way, let's not forget, every single seemingly 49ers running back got injured at some point last year. All the way down to when they were running Isaac Guerendo, who out there, and he still got injured after 14 snaps. We need to start looking at the San Francisco 49ers training staff in the same ilk that we look at the Baltimore Ravens training staff. It's very plainly and simply not good. And I'm very thankful that Deebo Samuel, a unique talent in the National Football League, got out of there, because look at the injury history that guy had in San Francisco. Listen, look at Brock Purdy's elbow injury a couple years back. The San Francisco training staff, to me, now has a demonstrated history of failure with their athletes. And quite frankly, Jason, it's what's keeping them from winning a Super Bowl every single year.
To Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, they did their talking this week in Las Vegas, right down the street from where we are, talking about unfinished business. I don't know if Vegas is the place for them to finish that business, but hey, knock yourself out.
I mean, this was, Jason, the funniest of all of the talking points this week to me. What are we doing here? This, to me, same ilk as the Deshaun Watson thing, right? Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, you're on your last legs in the NFL. You somehow just got guaranteed a bunch more money. Just be quiet, sit down, win 3 games, and wait to get replaced in 2 years.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Yarnell's advice for everybody is just shut up. That is Sam Yarnell's advice for everybody is just shut up. Pete Carroll's won a Super Bowl. I mean,
15 years ago.
So what? It's more than a lot of people win. Just saying. Sam Yarnell's advice for everybody, by the way, shut up. I'm tired of hearing you kids. We're coming back. Lots more to do. Thank you for being with us on this Friday edition of Sports Wrap. It is a Friday, and that can mean one of two things. Either Tino Pattigno is here to talk NASCAR, which he will be later in the show, or Robert Littal is here, our friend from Black Sports Online, the founder, the creative mastermind behind Black Sports Online. Just told me he's going to a Dodgers game this weekend, so I am jealous. Can I tell you, I lived in California. I lived in Palm Springs for 5 years. I've still never gone to a Dodgers game. I've still never gone to a Padres game, and I've still never gone to a Angels game.
Wow.
And I'm a huge baseball fan.
I love the Padres stadium, too, right off the water. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get to a Padres game. I also want to get to a Diamondbacks game because that's not too far from where I am in Las Vegas either. I'm not a fan of going to live sporting events as I get older. I'll just watch it on TV. Matter of fact, we had this conversation. We actually had this conversation on the show yesterday, and I'll actually bring you into it here for a second. This week on the show, we had a conversation about if you have one sporting event that you have not seen that you want to see before you die, but you can only pick one. What is it?
Yeah, I've been to a hockey game before, but I've never been to a Stanley Cup final. And I've been to every other type of championship game that's ever been existed, except a Stanley Cup final, Game 7. I would love to do that before they put me in that dirt.
Before they put you to rest. I got it. Okay, all right. That's a good one. I can go with that. So I want to get your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith, the latest Stephen A. Smith story of the week. He was out here at NAB in Las Vegas on Monday. And he said, look, because of what's going on in the country, even though I got a great deal with ESPN and everything I'm doing, he goes, I am open to running for president. Now, is this just him trying to get the adulation and the people wanting to talk to him? Or do you think this is real and that he would actually consider doing this?
A little of both. I think he the LeBron thing finally kind of calmed down. So got to stay in the news. If you're Stephen A. Smith, his currency is attention. So you have to say some things that's going to, get the social media streets, talking. But I do think as it gets closer to 2028, if there's an inkling that, that he could possibly, make some noise, it's almost, I always said this about Trump. I never, ever thought Trump thought he was going to win. I thought that he was just doing it because it was getting him a lot of attention. He could sell some products, he could make some money, and he was actually surprised when he actually won. That's the type of situation I feel like Stephen A. Smith is in.
Could he win?
Yeah. Well, look who we voted for. Look at us as a country as a whole. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Like, I always say this almost every day. A civilized society would not do X, Y, and Z is whatever I'm seeing, that's out there. But the United States of America does it often and almost daily. Now, you say, how is this even possible that a normal society can act this way? So at this point, if you asked me this 4 years ago, 8 years ago, are you crazy? This is silly. This is ridiculous. Why are we even talking about this? But now I don't put anything by this country right now. If tomorrow I saw that they wanted to bring slavery back and I had to go report, I would believe it. I honestly would believe it.
I always wait for sort of the Nickelback effect with Stephen A. And it's never happened. Like that point where there's just so much of somebody, and we've seen it through time with various things. Eventually they turn on you, and it goes the other way, and then we rebuild you, and there's these cycles. But Stephen A., it feels like, has never gotten off that top cycle of just being out there and there being so much of him, and then the fall. So I keep wondering if maybe there just isn't a fall. Maybe he is immune to it.
Well, he had one. It was just earlier in
when he went to Fox Sports,
social media. I mean, he was big, in the early part before social media really took. And then he kind of.
What do you make of LeBron confronting you?
Big for his britches, and ESPN said, "Go do your own thing." And he had those few years where he was just floating, and he kind of came back, I would say, a bit humbled. Thanks to Skip Bayless, though, and Skip Bayless helped build him, back up. And when Skip decided to leave and he took that ball and ran with it, I think he learned from some of his mistakes. The number one mistake that he learned from is that he needs ESPN. He can do all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. He can do but he has to have that hub of ESPN putting him in our faces and promoting him like he's Hulk Hogan, like he's The Rock. Like he's, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And as long as he has that hub, everything else seems to work around it. So until ESPN is tired of him, I think he's, pretty safe and solid as far as being someone that's going to continue to be in the news.
I'll tell you the other thing, though, and why I don't think he ultimately does it is everybody got skeletons. Yeah. Everybody's got something, Robert. Yeah. You and I have been in this industry long enough. If I ran for office, I am sure there are people out there that would come out with some cockamamie thing that I said in an elevator or something I said at a party when I was drunk. Everybody has something. And as much as Stephen A. Smith might want to say that he doesn't, there will be somebody out there that comes out with something. And that doesn't just ruin you politically, it could ruin you professionally.
Well, that's why he's trying to turn MAGA. Get the MAGA shield. You can't do that as a Democrat. Right. You wear the wrong color suit as a Democrat and, they go crazy. But as MAGA, there is this sort of weird thing where even though they're criminals and you can kind of see the right in your face, there seems to be a shield around them. And if you listen to Stephen A., day by day, little by little, it goes a little bit more from, the Democratic side, which normally what you would think
center left.
Yeah. I think he's looking for the shield.
That's Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder, hanging out with us on the show. So push comes to shove, you think he runs?
I think maybe he starts. See how it goes.
Exploratory committee.
Yeah, it can't hurt to start. And if the snowball gets rolling, and keep rolling with it.
It'll be interesting to see who's courting him. And that courtship, as I said at the top of this, is every bit as much appealing to him, just being wanted. Just having people come out there. And then at the end is 6 months of being courted. You could say, you know what, I'm good. Yeah. I'll stay where I am. And I got my rub, I got my feel. That's kind of the way I see it playing out. We got more with Robert Littal on the other side. Tyreek Hill in the news for the wrong reasons this week. Want to get his thoughts on that. And the WNBA college basketball women's ratings, we'll talk about it next. Welcome back to the show on this Friday. And if it is a Friday, we're hanging out with our friend Robert Littal from Black Sports Online, their founder. Does everything. He's like me. Does everything. I wanted to get your thoughts on Tyreek Hill. We talked about it on the show yesterday or the day before when this news hit about what happened with him earlier in the week, this domestic incident, and you start to add it all up when it comes to Tyreek Hill. And, some people have been wanting to say wrong place, wrong time, all of this. But when you start to add it all up with a guy like Tyreek Hill, what's your end conclusion?
He's not a good guy. I mean, he's a great football player, which kind of allows him not to be a good guy. And, this goes all the way back to college, where he had the arrest for, assaulting his pregnant girlfriend. And, I'm one to believe in second chances because like we talked about before, none of us are perfect. All of us have had a bad day. All of us have done things that we regret, things that we think we wish we could take back. But it's the sum that to me is the problem, that there seems to be every other year there's some issue. Did he hurt his kid? He has all these multiple, baby mamas. He got lawsuits from women, and there's on the balconies. It's just a culmination of things, and like people always tell, when people show you who they are, you got to believe them.
At some point,
I think there's enough. I would say there's enough real evidence and circumstantial evidence to at this point to say this is a guy that has some issues, anger issues, and some violence issues, and if he didn't play football at a high level, would he be in jail, right now?
So what do you do if you're the Dolphins then?
They're not going to do anything. It's the NFL. Unless it's on tape, you're fine. Yeah. I learned that a long time ago with, Ray Rice and others. If you're not on tape, Deshaun Watson, 20, 30, we give you 6 games and a guaranteed contract. They don't care about that. They care about public perception. And if there's no tape, they feel like they can get around it.
I am glad
Ray Rice 2 games.
I am glad you mentioned Deshaun Watson while I have a second here, because we were talking about him at the top of the show, and this is the season of the NFL where there's talking, whether it's who's going to go where in the draft and people trying to raise stock, lower stock, all of that stuff. And then there's the players that are talking, whether it's Geno Smith and Pete Carroll talking about unfinished business, and everybody's trying to, get the hype videos ready. And Deshaun Watson was part of that this week. He put out this video of him working out. And I said one thing at the top of the show that we all seem to forget with Watson. For all the off-the-field stuff that we could all sit here and condemn him for all day, he is still only 29 years old, Robert. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to believe because it feels like it's been a lifetime of news about him.
He's done. I mean, let's just be honest with you. He's
no
done.
Chance, huh? You don't think there's any chance?
He's done. He has to think about it like this. Let's even say physically he gets back after turning this double. If you're an NFL team, and I know I just said this, but this is an extreme case. If you're an NFL team, why would you even bring him in? There's nothing to show that he's going to do anything that he hasn't done before. and I'm assuming he's going to want, some decent money. What would be the upside of bringing in a Deshaun Watson, to your program? I don't think he's going to get another chance. I think he should be happy. He got a lot of guaranteed money. He's probably going to be able to be rich for the rest of his life. Him and his fiance should just, go to Europe, hang out at Fashion Week and live their lives. But as far as the NFL, I mean, when the owner comes out at the owners' meetings or at the combine and say, "Yeah, we screwed up. We made a mistake. I'm sorry." That's a good sign that you're not quite welcome back.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the draft because they just signed Joe Flacco today. Mm-hmm. They still have Watson under contract and on that team. Do you go with a Shedeur Sanders? Mm-hmm. I mean, what are they going to do as far as the draft is concerned? Do they go quarterback this year? Do they try to ride it out with one of these guys? I mean, he's going to get training camp. He's going to get preseason games. He's going to get an opportunity to show that he can still play. I mean, I'm just saying, 29 years old, it's awful early to rule somebody out that had so much promise at one point. We forget how good he was with Houston.
Well, the thing about it, even with Houston, is that his best year was when they went like 3-13, 4-12. It was a lot of garbage time. Like, he to me, with quarterbacks, it's just something about it. I just don't think he had whatever he had. I don't think he has it anymore. I think it's gone. and then maybe it's the personal stuff. Maybe it's the Browns. I don't know. I feel like most NFL fans will overlook a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I think it's almost universal that nobody wants Deshaun Watson on their team going forward. So I said, I could be wrong, but. Normally I'm not.
There it is. See, I like a little ego in there. All right, last one before I let you go. The ratings down substantially for the women's Final Four. What do you attribute it to ultimately? Is it more of a endorsement of just how big Caitlin Clark was? Has some of the buzz for women's basketball worn off? Where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, it's Caitlin Clark. No matter how people try to put it in the gumbo and mix it up and make their own narrative, she was massive. And it had nothing to do with people being racist. It had nothing to do with her being white. She was just a lightning strike. She was a rocket. She was a meteor. The stuff that doesn't come around. She was, don't come around for 75 years. That was a once in a lifetime type of situation. And the women's basketball should be happy that they only lost 50%. If a Marvel movie the second week only lost 50%, Kevin Feige would be happy about that. You don't want to lose 75, 80%. I think it lets you know because, Paige is white. And I've always said there's tons of white, WNBA players. So that really, to me, never had anything to do with it. She was just an anomaly that's probably not going to happen into another generation of even Juju Watkins wasn't going to be pulling in, those type of numbers. And it's still sad to me that we're still kind of having these narrative conversations about her because when the WNBA starts, it's going to be the same thing. Her ratings are going to be bigger than everybody else's. Her stadiums are going to be bigger than everybody else's, and people are going to try to make excuses for it. But when she win that WNBA championship, I'm sure they'll figure out something else to say, too.
That's true. Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online. Check out his work there. Enjoy that Dodgers game you're going to this weekend. I am jealous.
Yeah, it's going to make me bankrupt. Maybe I might have to sneak in my own food.
Like going to the movies. I like it. All right, Robert, always appreciate you, my friend.
All right, have a good one.
We're coming back. Welcome back to this special edition of Sports Wrap. Anybody who's watched the show, listened to me in my radio iteration, I've always had a passion for sports teams that leave their cities and what happens to those cities afterwards. And if anybody's ever heard our hockey conversations on this show with Dennis Bernstein from SiriusXM NHL Radio, thefourthperiod.com, EJ Raddick when he comes on, I always bring up somehow the Whalers at some point in a conversation whenever I get the opportunity. So I thought it was a great idea to get this guy on because this weekend is the 28th anniversary of the Hartford Whalers departing the city of Hartford for Carolina, North Carolina, where they'd become the Carolina Hurricanes. And every year on the 13th, I watch the final Whalers game, and I sit in front of YouTube and I cry. This year, I have something different to watch, and we will explain that in just a moment with our special guest on the show today, Pat Pickens, author, and now I can say documentary filmmaker, which probably he didn't plan to have on his list of things a couple of years ago when he wrote a book called The Whalers that he put out. What year did you put out The Whalers? 21?
21, yeah.
2021, he put out a book called The Whalers, and now he has a 90-minute film that will premiere this Sunday on NBC Sports in Boston. Where will it be available after that, Pat?
So it's going to actually be pretty available on the NBC family of networks. So
great.
I've been keeping this close to the vest because we didn't have an official announcement to make. But yeah, we're going to premiere it in Boston on NBC Sports Boston, the home of the Celtics, on Sunday the 13th. It's going to appear on, if you're in New York, it's going to be on SNY, the home of the Mets, on the 16th. And if you're in Greater Philadelphia, we're going to be on NBC Sports Philadelphia on Easter Sunday, the night of Easter Sunday. So, we're going to do a bunch of screenings, a bunch of TV viewings. So SNY, NBC Sports Boston, and NBC Sports Philadelphia for now, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
That is fantastic. So this chronicles basically, and I haven't had a chance, in all full disclosure, I only got a copy of the documentary yesterday. I have not had a chance to screen it yet, but I'm fully aware of the book. I know of your work, so I wanted to have you on to walk us through what this 90-minute documentary is going to show people.
It's going to show people, I think what it's going to show people, and what I strive to do with this process in the Whalers is basically to showcase, there's a lot there in 90 minutes, but it's really to showcase that this is, people might know the logo, people might know the brass bonanza, people might know, what I like to refer to as the enduring kitsch of the Whalers. And we get into all that. So we get into how the brass bonanza was unveiled. We chronicle the logo. Actually, we got Peter Good on camera, the creator of the logo. Right, he passed in 2023, but we had interviewed him on camera in 2022, and it's really special to have him in the film, especially again since he passed away less than a year after we spoke with him. But yeah, it's going to chronicle the whole history of the Whalers, and I think, Jason, you lived it to some degree, but I think it's to me, it's to prove to people that this is more than just the logo. It's more than just brass bonanza. It's that this was a team. This was a hockey team. Like Wayne Gretzky would come to Hartford and play games.
Mario Lemieux. I remember watching Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, and I think we get caught up in the logo and the nostalgia piece and playing at the shopping mall and forget that in some cases that this was somebody's favorite team. That this was, a lot of people's favorite team, even though it's from a bygone era, and the economy really doomed some things, and Chuck Kate and I talked. He said it's an economic story, this history of the Hartford Whalers, but that there was a team there that played the NHL hockey for 18 years. That it was the only major professional sports team in Connecticut's history, and so we chronicle how it got there, why it left, and all of the kind of weird, quirky things that happened in between. And how they live on it, that's the amazing thing, is how they continue to be more relevant than ever.
Well, what is it about this franchise that does keep them so relevant and keep them alive? Who is it, aside from you and your work, who is it that keeps this franchise alive, and how do they do it?
It's weird because it's not, it's definitely not me, but it is the logo. The logo is so phenomenal. It is brass bonanza. I think there is a level of group, people are coming to realize how far ahead of its time the organization was. They invented the team store. They were the first professional sports team with a team store. We touched on this in the film, had Chris Berman to speak about it, that, the whole, derision, which I'm sure you heard, Ranger fans used to deride Whaler fans, you play in a shopping mall with the song chant. But now how that's the thing now, right? Atlanta is like the envy of baseball because it has retail, it has dining, it gets you to the place and you stay for the game. And the Whalers did that, 25, 30 years before Atlanta did. So, and then I think there is this level of, I would say, curiosity that Hartford was a major professional sports market. So like you watch the crawl on ESPN, or you turn on ESPN2 for a hockey game at the Hartford Civic Center, and you would see Hartford across the bottom, So there is that level of nostalgia piece for people of a certain age, where as we get older, we long for our youth a little bit, and that Hartford could be a major league market. It was the smallest market ever. But and again, it produced so many incredible people that are still around the game. So we spoke with Ray Ferraro and Pat Verbeek and Kevin Dineen and those guys who are still around the game and are at the highest levels of the sport that love talking about Hartford, which I'm personally grateful for, because I wouldn't have even had a book if not for many of those tales from many of those people. And but yeah, it's definitely that uniqueness of Hartford as a. Wait, Hartford was a major league sports fan. How about that?
Yeah. The documentary premieres this weekend. Look forward to seeing it, and we'll have more of my conversation with Pat Pickens next week on the show. We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. 10 minutes from now, it's odds and ends to wrap things up. Some Masters talk. John Morant's latest celebration. We'll talk about that too. Let's talk some NASCAR. Our friend Tino Pattigno is here. SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You can catch his betting advice there on the weekends. Our NASCAR insider joining us here on Fridays. All right. Before we get to this weekend's race, Denny Hamlin, back-to-back wins. The caution obviously aiding him in the victory this weekend. Your level of surprise that we've seen him at this stage of his career win a couple of races in a row?
I'm not shocked. It's Denny Hamlin, and he's one of the drivers throughout his career who's able to get the most out of his car. And out of a long green flag run like we saw, the caution did come out. But another thing that's important to note is his pit crew. His pit crew was ultimately the reason he won that race, getting him from, I believe, top 5 position, top 3, wherever he was in the field to first. That's the most important thing. Wherever he was to first. And once you're in first in clean air in NASCAR overtime and Denny Hamlin, it's pretty much a done deal at that point. We've seen that happen to him before. Actually, the same exact way that race played out, we saw in Richmond 2024 NASCAR spring race, and Denny Hamlin did the exact same thing, NASCAR overtime, but caution between the 5 and the 23 as well. Pit crew does it for him, and he ultimately gets the win. I mean,
NASCAR's version of the bye week is coming up after this race in Bristol. Where we are through this stage of the season, what has been the biggest surprise to you?
I think in terms of Joe Gibbs Racing winning as many races as they have, and I think in the matter in which they have done that, right? 5 of 8 races they have won now. Denny Hamlin's looking for a 3-peat, and if he does get it, that'd be the second 3-peat, because Christopher Bell already gotten one earlier this season. That's been my biggest surprise, because Ryan Blaney's been the fastest car every week, hasn't been able to win. Kyle Larson's had a poor performance at Darlington. Chase Elliott's been up there but hasn't able to close the deal. So I think just JGR capitalizing on places where maybe they weren't the fastest cars but still winning anyways is pretty big early on this season.
I agree. Who needs the bye week the most?
I would say Ryan Blaney. For them to check out their cars, see what's going on, just get a break, because that guy's been the fastest car each and every week, in position to win once again at Darlington, and caution comes out. Nothing he could have done differently or better. The pit crew maybe could get some extra reps because he came in first, exited pit row 4th. Didn't win the race because of it, so hopefully they can get things right. But it seems an issue to be where they're just due for a win. They're in an unlucky streak right now, but when you bring fast cars to the racetrack, it's ultimately going to pan out for them.
All right, let's talk about this weekend's race in Bristol, under the lights. This is a race that's gone through some different iterations. Last year it went back to the concrete surface. For a few years it was the dirt race. I got to ask this, and I know we haven't talked about him a ton this year because he hasn't really been in contention. But we kind of thought maybe at the start of the year, maybe Kyle Busch could get back on track and win a race. I'm not saying be the Kyle Busch of old, but at least win a race. This is a track he's won on it when it was dirt. He's won on it when it was concrete. Is there anything that points to Kyle Busch for you this weekend?
Not to win the race, no. I would say top 10 if he's lucky. I mean, he can stay out of trouble if they can put a good car on the racetrack. And he's been able to get some good top 10 finishes out of that team. That's really maximizing their day right now. They're not competitive enough to race for wins. And if he does go out and win this race at 30-1, which I believe he is, then good for him, because that's exactly what Kyle Busch is, able to do. Go out and win races in cars that aren't necessarily the best in the field. But when you have guys like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, all right now at the best of their game, I don't see Kyle Busch being that much of a factor, as much as we would like to think he would be, especially at a track like Bristol, which it's one of his best tracks.
Now, maybe it was a little foreshadowing on your part that you mentioned Denny Hamlin potentially winning 3 in a row the way Christopher Bell did, because Denny Hamlin won at this track last year on the concrete. So what do you look at this week? I mean, where are you going in terms of from a handicapping standpoint? And is Denny Hamlin your guy?
He has to be. He has to be one of them at least, because he has 11 top 5 finishes in the last 14 short track races. Like you said, he won this race last year, and they have a lot of momentum right now. So when it comes to Denny Hamlin, I think he has to be on your card, because we saw Christopher Bell win the three-peat as well earlier this year. I didn't really think it was going to be that easy to do so, and he made it look pretty easy when he got it done, capping it off at Phoenix. So Denny Hamlin, to me, I don't like his price right now, plus 490. I'm seeing the best out there, open up at plus 500. But that's just a driver where when we go to this type of racetrack, it's going to be the best of the best. It's going to be Denny Hamlin. It's going to be Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, like I mentioned before as well. Like, these are the guys that are going to rise above the rest because of it's Bristol, the concrete type of racetrack eats away at the tires. We won't see extreme tire wear like last year, which was an awesome race. It's going to be more like the fall, in which Kyle Larson dominated that race, and the top guys all rose to the top in that occasion as well.
And you mentioned Kyle Larson, who's also up there. If you're looking at betting, from an odds standpoint, he is right there, along with Denny Hamlin. If you're looking a little further down the trough, what do you see?
So I love the RFK drivers from that standpoint, which include Chris Buescher at plus 3,200, Ryan Preece, a driver we've been talking about this year because he's been performing really well. If you're not looking at Ryan Preece to win the race at plus 4,400, definitely a top 10 finish. When it comes to short track racing, that is where he excels at. And so Brad Keselowski is the owner of that group, plus 2,800, but I take the first two guys I mentioned over Brad right now. They're just faster than that 6 car currently at this track, and currently during the season. Brad's been running into a couple tracks where he's had some trouble, hasn't gotten off to as hot of a start as his teammates there, but ultimately I like all 3 drivers to finish potentially inside the top 10 in this one.
Real quick, any love for Bubba?
Not too much at this racetrack. Maybe a top 10 and a strong day for him, but he hasn't had too much success here at Bristol.
Tino Pattigno always does a great job. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this week's shows. Don't forget, SportsWrap Weekends available on many of these same affiliates. If it's not on yours, just search around the dial. You'll find it somewhere. Better yet, just watch the show Monday through Friday right here, or you can check out the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. All sorts of great content going up there every day. Anything from the show, you will find it there. We have our SportsWrap shorts that we put up there. Not the kind you wear, but the kind you can watch. YouTube shorts, you can go and check those out as well. Also, the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast, audio version of the show available. All your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can find it. You can also watch us over on Spotify as well. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Friday, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. John Morant's got a new one. And the NBA said, stop pointing finger guns at people. My God. So he said, I'm going to do something even better. I'm going to pull the pin out of a fake grenade and throw it into the crowd and cover my ears like the grenade just exploded. Not for nothing, man. I get it. from the perspective of he's just trying to go after, he's almost trolling the league and Adam Silver at this point. But it's like, dude, just worry about you talk about players. You say just shut up and know your place and play and all of this stuff. Ja Morant, just play the game, man. You're so good at it, and we'll talk about you. Don't worry, we're gonna pay attention to you for playing the game because you're so good that you gotta sit here and do this stuff. Like, I get it. We want to have fun and all of that. But now it's to a point where Ja Morant, now I'm being the old guy sitting on the front porch barking at the trees. But I don't get it. I just don't.
Yeah, so you may not get this either. This may go right over your head, and I'm sorry if it does. But to the young folks out there, because all these memes have been going around, and they're hilarious, of Ja Morant with the GTA, with the Grand Theft Auto video game circle that comes up over him, and it's like, choose your weapon. It's very funny. The internet has really had a field day with this. Listen, I love it. I'm here for it, man. I'm all about, if they tell you to stay in your lane, stay in it as much as it bothers them. So I am all for it. Ja Morant, keep doing your thing. We'll see. I can't wait to see him with a bazooka, a harpoon, a bow and arrow. I mean, let's see it all. I want to see Ja Morant pull out a drone controller and then a drone screen pop up on the video board, and it's like you're launching an airstrike into the crowd. Now that would be funny.
Do you remember when Fernando Rodney, you just mentioned the bow and arrow, and it just reminded me of Fernando Rodney for the Rays.
Former national.
For the Rays,
former
though.
National.
Yeah, but he made it famous with the Rays after he'd get the save and he'd point it. Yeah, that's just what I thought of. See, I remember. All right, odds and ends. Justin Rose was the leader after the first round of the Masters. Who knows where it is by the time you're watching this. Rory McIlroy would have been near the top of the leaderboard had he not fallen apart from basically the fairway on the 15th hole through the end of his round, where he just kind of self-destructed. Scotty Scheffler played well in the first round. We'll obviously be watching the Masters throughout the weekend and have a full recap on Monday. But based on what we've seen early on, Sam Yarnell, your prognostications, your thoughts, did any of your betting wisdom sort of go one way or the other? By the way, Michael Kim under par in his first round. And Fred Couples, 65-year-old Fred Couples, with the round of the day, under par. He shot a 1 under in his opening round. Love Fred Couples.
Yeah,
Fred, you're welcome on the show anytime.
Very cool to see. I think he's the second player in history besides like Gary. It's either Gary or Arnie or someone who shot a round under par at 65 or older. Yes. Incredible stuff. Very cool to see out of Fred Couples yesterday. Listen, the Masters it's obviously a very unique tournament, right? If you had to ask me right now, obviously I'm going to say Justin Rose is going to win because of how well he's been playing so far. But, the guy who knows golf inside of me knows that Justin Rose isn't going to sustain that for 4 whole days and win it all the way to the end. A top 10 play might not be bad, a top 5 even, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty. But at the end of the day, Jason, yesterday I watched the entire round. I watched way more golf than I intended to. And my main takeaway is just that this tournament is Scotty Scheffler's to lose. If anyone else wins it, it's because Scotty Scheffler lost it, man. He went out there yesterday and shot 4 under, was right there up in contention for the lead. And the thing is, he just made it look so easy. It looked like he was giving 60% of the effort that the other golfers on the course were. And again, it's an incredibly hard course. You have to be so meticulous about walking things off and measuring things out because you're not allowed any sort of technology besides a range book. And I think Scotty's prowess comes within the mental game, right? He's so good at not making a mistake. He knows exactly what he has to do. That doesn't mean that he's going to hit the hero shot every time. He does a lot of things that golfers like you and me should do more on a golf course, and that's just managing the golf course, managing their game, and he did it so well yesterday.
Best advice I ever got when I was taking lessons playing golf is don't hit the hero shot. Just manage the course, take your medicine, try to make your pars. That's some of the best advice that I ever got. Michael Kim 1 under on his opening round. We told you top 10 for him at, I think, plus 600.
700.
700. See? Keep an eye on that. We got to go. Thank you, Pat Pickens. Thank you, Robert Littal. Thank you, Tino Pattigno. Thank you, Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for watching all week. We'll see you back here on Monday or this weekend.